Okay, so this week we're going to learn how to do tabular data in HTML. First, we're going to hard code it in this first step. And then what you're going to do is learn how to write code that creates this same kind of output. And I think it's beneficial to start with hard coding it so you can see it. So the link I've given you is here to the table element. And if you want to see what it looks like, you can see an image here. This is ultimately what we're going to create today for this first code along. And then we'll start in the second part actually coding this up. It'll take a little more work. And then I hope by the second code along we'll actually learn how to do the edit and delete to complete the CRUD that I've already talked about in the attendance, the CRUD operations. Okay, so create, read, update, and delete. We'll see how far we get through that. Okay, so now in the HTML, in your week 7 private in the HTML first, go right after you have div, right, and then just put table. Okay, so then hit enter, so it gives us a new table. And then inside that table, we'll use a TH. Or actually, let's do a TR. A TR is a row. So if I hit tab here, that gives me a row. And then I'm going to do, in this case, you can see how many, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are headings. Okay, so then we'll do TH, and I use something, and I suspect if you haven't Emmet, that actually will do times 5. Did I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, 5. Hit tab. TH times 5. There we go. So what that did is it created 5 of those THs for me, those headings, right? So now I can just do name, right? Okay, and then what did I put? Number in household. Let's do household. Okay, and then we do house size. Makes sense. We don't need to put the score. We could maybe later, but for now this will be fine. And then we'd put carbon footprint. And then the last one I did, which was actions. Okay. Actions we can take. Good. So that gives us just the heading. So let's go look at those real quick just to see. Now one thing you notice here is that it's hard to tell that this is a table. And so one really simple way you can do this is just to add some CSS. But in doing this adding of CSS, I realize it's probably time we start creating an external style sheet. So let's do that right now. Okay. So create a new file in here, and we'll call it style.css. Okay. We'll go over to index. We'll take these. Now notice how this is wrapped in. These are in line. We're going to just copy the HTML. Sorry, the CSS. I'm going to cut it. I'll go over to my styles. I'm going to paste it. Okay, so that's step 1. Then I'm going to go back to my index. Now I'm going to get rid of the styles because I no longer need it. Now I'm going to write a link. Okay, and when you do link tab, it automatically puts in, what is it, the kind of relationship, the link relationship, and then you just tell it the reference, kind of like what we did with source up here, style.css. Okay, just to make sure that works. Then I'll go over here, right, and I'll see that nothing's changed, which is good. So if I had missed something in that step, I would have seen it there. Okay. Okay, so now let's actually go in here and add some kind of typical styles we'd have for tables, right? In here, we could just do table. And one thing we could do, if we could actually also specify anything in the table and anything that's the heading and TDs, which we'll do in a little while. Okay, and we're going to say if you find any of those in my code, then here's how I want you to style them. I'm going to say border : 1 pixel solid. Okay, now I can give it a default color, but it kind of just at this point, just seeing it will help. And then I'm going to add some padding, and padding is the space around pixels, 5 pixels. Now let's go see what just doing that adds to our output. Okay, so you can see that here, which is kind of cool. It gives you that idea of tabular data output. Okay, so now let's actually now go back over here. Okay. So now by adding that style, and now we have a heading, and now we have our, actually, did I forget? I think I forgot something here. I think what I forgot was the heading. Oh, my bad. Even though the TH automatically, this is good to know. Let me show you what I mean. Here, I forgot to add the heading, but because a TH is automatically a heading, it knows how to handle it, but good semantic code would actually say you do T heading here, right? And then I'm going to do this. So that way when screen readers and other devices are looking at this, I think those go there. Let's do a prettier on that just to make sure. Well, that looks good. Okay. So now we want to, so that's the heading. Again, I forgot the actual tag for the heading, even though it still figured it out. And now we do T body. Okay. So now within the body, now when we want to add some, we want to add the body itself, right? Again, right? So the content here. So we're going to hard code. Again, the reason I'm having you hard code this, right? So we have a TR again. Right, and a TD to represent each of them. So TR, now I'm only going to do one, so that's fine, and then TD times 5. Okay. In this case, right, I'm going to hard code in the name, hard code in, and I'm just going to put the first name. We don't have to put the last name, right? So what's the, so now we can just go get some sample data if we don't remember, right? So let's say 2 and large. Okay. So again, based on the way I've put this on the page, it's underneath it for now. So we know that based on household of 3, house size of large, it's 20. So household of 3, household of 3, right? House size of large, right? And then the score would be 20. And then in here, and in this case, I'm going to actually do a button. Okay, button there. It's going to be called edit. Now I'm going to have my edit. I'm going to create another button here. Okay, just so you can see this. Wrap this up. Copy this, and then I'll have a delete. Okay, so wrong one over here. Okay, so that looks pretty good, right? But one thing you definitely want to do is when you start laying out tabular data like this, because it's a fairly common thing to do, is actually do one other style, which is kind of cool. And it gives you, it's like a little bit of CSS, gives you a lot. So in this case, if you come back over here, now under here you can type T body, and it says anything on the body. Okay, TR on the TRs on the rows themselves, and we'll just write this and then we'll talk about it. The nth child. Okay, and then this is odd, which means every other one. Okay, so let's see, did I get that right? So background color, and you give it any background color you want. Like I'm gonna maybe give it a beige. I think, let's see if that works. Okay, and beige is kind of light based on my font color, so I'd probably play with that font color, or I'd play with this to either be like something. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's a little better, right? So if you do this, like matter of fact, if you, and let's just go show you, so the nth child says every other one, the odd ones. So if we were to copy this, right, doesn't hurt to do this, okay, and do it again, then you would see the next one, right, is different. It doesn't have that style. Now, by the way, you can also add styling for that, but in this case, right? So now let's think about this before we move on, right? So this is all good and fine, but of course the problem is what? What's the problem with this? Well, the problem with this is we're not going to know that data, right, until the user gives it to us. And we're capturing it as an array of objects. So we can output this data. And now that we know what the structure looks like, now we can think about how we would not hard code this, but how we would write JavaScript to create this. Okay, so that's going to be our next task. So I just wanted to start you with, right, the first part of this is just creating the hard-coded table. So do that piece, and then we'll move on to starting to write the JavaScript for it. I think more fun than what we just did.